Hello students, this is Professor McDonald. This will be my comments regarding Chapter 14, which is cybercrime. A relatively short chapter, and I'll try to keep my comments as brief as possible. With the development of computers and personal computers especially, combined with computers being interconnected via the internet, cybercrime and global security crime has also developed. Computer crime or cybercrime is distinguishable from other forms of crime in that a computer is either the target or the means to commit the crime. So it can either be the target of the crime or the means to commit the crime. And they can come from both internal and external threats. The internet is a perfect form for committing basic to complex frauds. The FBI, in conjunction with the Bureau of Justice Assistance established the Internet Fraud Complaint Center. So there is a complaint center where these things are, Internet fraud complaints are processed, including auto fraud, FBI impersonation, scareware, ransomware, real estate, timeshare, and romance scams. Other crimes that can be committed via computer are identity theft, child pornography, and molestation, the sale of contraband items, and terrorism. Forensic examination of the computer and electronic devices require search warrants and skilled, knowledgeable investigators. So if you do a crime scene search and you recover a computer at the search, and just about every crime whether it's drugs or cybercrime like we're talking about this week, or any other type of complex crime scheme, you're going to want to collect in a search warrant. You want to list computers and other electronic devices in your warrant. And when you recover these things, you do not have the skill. You need to have trained, certified individuals that can go into the computer and lawfully recover the contents of that computer and convert it to a usable format whereby the prosecutor can use it in the prosecution of the crime. And how do they get the evidence? They can look at the internet history, calendars, emails, documents. I've been on multiple search warrants where computers were recovered, and we had individuals that were trained computer technicians that exploited the information in the computers and then turned it over to us where we could present it to the prosecutor for prosecution. The first computers were developed during World War II. They were large, expensive mainframes. IBM released the first personal computer in 1981. And then in the 1990s, the internet became available, and computers became interconnected, and then the security threat became a global threat. Again, remember, using a computer, the computer can either be the target or the means to commit the crime. And how did the internet help? Well, it allows for new forms of crime. The internet is a wonderful thing, but it also was a boon to many criminals. As we can see with this chapter, the use of the internet is a tremendous advantage to certain types of crimes. You have internal threats. That can be dishonest employees that are motivated by personal gain, create fake accounts. They can sell company information. Maybe if they're exiting employees, if they're leaving, you got to make sure you do an exit interview to determine why that person is leaving. Are they going to take the company's secrets with them? Have they downloaded trade secrets and information from the system? These are a lot of things to think about, especially, and this includes government. As you see now, we've had several major intrusions into our government systems. Every day, our government systems under attack, not only from private individuals, but also from governments who are our adversary in the world. You can have a disgruntled employee who's just motivated by striking back the employer as the result of some real or imagined wrong on the part of the employer. So there's a lot of different type of motivations and different threats from the internal side. On the external threat, you have hackers, and these are intruders who enter through another's computer system without authorization. You have the white hat hackers, and you can read about that, but these are people that try to hack into a system to identify its weaknesses and work either with the company or with the government to try to strengthen those weaknesses and reduce the vulnerability of the systems to outsiders. Then you have the black hat hacker. He's the criminal. Their motivation is either to circumvent a computer security for personal gain or vandalism. And when I say vandalism, they might not want to steal any information. They might want to just destroy the system itself and sabotage it. How can they do that? They can do it with viruses, with worms, with botnets, denials of service, and it can even be economic espionage, the theft of trade secrets, when someone takes information for the benefit of someone other than the owner. And many of these thefts are accomplished by hackers. And the targets could be U.S. businesses, academic institutions, defense contractors, government agencies. And in our textbook, they say that it's estimated that this form of espionage, economic espionage, costs the American economy over $19 billion a year. So this threat continues, and as computers become more sophisticated, the threat itself becomes more sophisticated as well. And this can include things such as the hacking of credit card companies and the release of and the acquiring of personal information on customers. I know recently, as I'm a retired federal employee as well, and the Office of Personnel Management, which manages retired employees and existing employees, they were hacked, and a lot of information of government employee data was taken and stolen, and so you have to really keep aware of your accounts and pay companies to monitor your accounts to see if there is any indication of hacking. Obviously, fraud is a crime that lends itself very well as a perfect forum for committing basic complex frauds. And a lot of agencies, not just the FBI, are engaged in these type of frauds, investigations. And these complaints can be auto fraud, where somebody's trying to sell, they say they're going to sell a vehicle for sale on the internet, usually for below market price, and for some reason they can't meet the seller due to the circumstances of an emergency. The seller they're unable to meet directly with the buyer to allow inspection of the vehicle. The seller attempts to make the arrangement appear legitimate by having the victim wire full or partial payment to a third-party agent. And of course what happens is you wire the money and you never get the car. You have people that identify themselves as FBI impersonators, trying to acquire personal information, get-rich inheritance scenarios, bogus lottery warning notifications. The Nigerians are famous for this, and I dealt with them many, many years ago. Ever since the advent of the computer, the Nigerian letter scams have been in existence. You have scareware and ransomware, real estate, timeshare fraud, romance scams. That's probably the cruelest fraud of all, as it victimizes the most vulnerable in our city, the lonely. And this is something that happens all the time, and where they'll target lonely widows or widowers and try to build their trust. The textbook has some really good tips on warning signs, so make sure you read that. But essentially what they're trying to do really is steal money from these people. It's got nothing to do with romance. You have identity theft, which is a criminal assuming another's identity for the purpose of obtaining credit and buying merchandise with no intention of making payment. And of course what this does is it'll destroy your credit rating. Phishing is another method that thieves use to collect personal data. Child pornography. In the old days, postal inspectors were heavily involved in this. Child pornographers had to use the mail to communicate with each other. It was a little bit more difficult. And we had investigators in every office I worked on whose full-time job was to identify and arrest these individuals. So now with the advent of the internet, the market increased drastically for child pornography, and where sexually explicit images of children can be produced in one country and transferred and easily viewed in another. And the number of offenders worldwide is estimated to be between 50 and 100,000. Think about that. Child pornographers. And of course, they're preying on the children of the world, which there's nothing could be worse than that. How do we find out about these people? A variety of reasons. Informants, computer technicians pick up on something. Maybe a search incident to an arrest of an individual, and you search the individual's computer and you find evidence of the crime. Chat rooms. A lot of officers and agencies have undercover chat rooms where they try to engage in contact with these people. Child pornographers do have their own chat rooms, and they will communicate and share information, so law enforcement tries to penetrate these chat rooms as in an undercover capacity to see if they can flush out these individuals and develop a case to arrest them. Child molesters also use the internet to, especially chat rooms, to befriend potential victims. You have contraband sales. Sales of illegal goods. Could be counterfeit goods. Terrorism is another. Cyber terrorism is a tremendous threat for several reasons. It's inexpensive. All the terrorist needs is a computer and an online connection. There's less personal risk. And there's a lot of targets with the internet. In other words, they can target data systems, computer systems, and people throughout the world, especially terrorists. They use it for a lot of different things. They can recruit, they can collect money, they can extend media coverage, they can direct operations, they can recruit individuals. And so cyber terrorism is, and also cyber terrorism can be involved with there was a confrontation in 2007 between Russia and Estonia, and where a denial of service cyber attack that caused the Estonian government websites and financial institutions to shut down. If you look at Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, terrorist organizations are frequently trying to target the Israeli system. Of course, the Israelis will respond as well. And remember, for the cyber terrorists, these systems, computer systems, that can control things such as the energy grid, transportation, the stock exchange. If they can successfully attack those networks, they can cause tremendous damage without even leaving their living room. Think about if the energy grid is knocked out for a state or even the East Coast or the West Coast. Think about the damage and the cost that would incur. Think about if the air traffic control system is knocked out through an attack when you have about 300 planes that are circling around Washington, D.C., awaiting their turns to land. So there's a lot of threat. It's a tremendous threat relative to cyber terrorism. Investigation of these cases, forensic examination of the computers involved. It could include desktops, laptops, tablets, cell phones. The standard procedure in all these investigations, like I told you, if you recover these things during a search warrant or an arrest incident to a search incident to arrest, then you'll need trained professionals to access these devices. You might find other criminals that may be even involved in a mass shooting, as they talk about in the book, and you go onto this person's computer and you can access information that maybe leads to the motivation of why they carried out the shooting. Maybe it's terrorism related, maybe they're just a killer. And in our textbook they talk about blunt force attack, social engineering. There's a lot of different things that can be accessed on the computer, deleted files, emails, etc. in the forensic examination. And there's a good case study on PFC Bradley Manning, so make sure you read that during this chapter. Because Computers are a thing of our daily life. Most of you are more efficient, more competent than I in using these systems, but as criminal investigators, these will be a big part of your work. That'll be the end of this dictation.